How is everybody doing?
We're good.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here with us. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for our final session in the International Team Leadership Summit. Now, as you know, we cannot talk about empowering our team without empowering ourselves as parents, as grandparents, as teachers, as therapists, as educators. Whoever you are in the lives of our children, it is important that we get our lives together. And the title of this particular segment is What You Don't Know May Be Killing You. And we're going to be talking about all aspects of life and health, and particularly in this time of the COVID-19 crisis, we want to speak about and speak into the truth regarding this issue and how we can prepare and protect ourselves for the next waves, because that's what life is about. It's about ups and downs, and it's about challenges. So with me today, I have Pastor Kamau Dickerson, and he's going to be sharing with us how we can prepare and protect with regards to our financial health. I will be speaking a little bit more about our mental, emotional, physical health. And we have also with us Karen McDonald and her wonderful husband, Quintus. And they are also going to be talking to us about how to prepare and protect as it relates to toxins in our lives. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the dynamic duo to my right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Campbell. You know, that introduction was wonderful. But my thought is, you know, as adults, we had a full day with the children and watching them move and gather and really gathering from them as well, because I always try to grab something from our youth. The social responsibility, that's the word that really just rings for me as parents and as adults, as grandparents, as aunties, as uncles. We have a social responsibility toward our youth, and that's about how we walk and how we carry ourselves. Not so much, you know, I'm from the generation, just do what I said. Don't ask me, you know, do as I say, not as I do. That's the generation I grew up in. But that's, you know, we have to be mindful and careful that I can't use that same information with our youth of today, because they are far more visual learners. So they're watching what I do far more. I mean, by them watching what I do will make them listen more to what I say. That makes sense. So there's a responsibility, a social responsibility, and that leads into the toxin that we want to talk with you all about here on tonight. So I'll turn that piece over to the lady back.
Well, thank you, and thank you. First of all, thank you for opening up your church. Thank you for inviting us on today. And you know, toxins. That is something that is, I mean, all over, right? I mean, whether it's in the food we eat, the things that we drink, the air that we breathe, we're encountering toxins all the time. But specifically today, and this is for the women, and it's for the men too, because the men that love and care about, you know, your wives, your daughters, your sisters, your aunties. So this is for everybody. But we are talking about the toxins in the feminine hygiene products. It's something that often is a taboo subject, right? To talk about feminine hygiene products. I know when I was growing up, my mom said, no, you don't talk about that from the men, right? But we have to talk about it because some of the pads on the shelf it's killing our women. Tampons, especially, killing our women. What we don't know, what nobody told me when I was growing up, is the pads contain toxins, cancer-causing toxins like dioxins.
Wow.
Dioxins. If anybody's familiar with dioxins, Google it. Yeah, that's right. Google it. Google the information that we're sharing today. But recycled trash. Recycled trash. Bleach. Oftentimes the pads are bleached to make them look white. And then as women, we have that. We're the most precious part of our bodies. The part of our bodies that is also used for, creating life. And when you heat your body to at least 98.6, because that's what our temperatures are, right? You're heating those chemicals. And where do you think it's going? In our body. In our body. But nobody told me that when I was a young girl. My mama didn't know, right? All she said was, here you go. Here you go. Use this product and we use that product.
Don't talk about it.
And don't talk about it, right? And don't talk about it around me. And don't talk about it around women either, because it's supposed to be personal.
I'd like to ask the audience a question. We've got more women than men in here. Everyone's familiar with what a hysterectomy is, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's right. They can hear us too. Yeah, so they heard you all say yes. How many hysterectomies do you think are performed in the United States on an annual basis? Would you say 50,000 in all the United States, 300,000, somewhere between 500,000 and a million? Between 50,000, 300,000, or 500,000?
The way you're talking, I'm going to say it's between a 5 and a million.
I'm going to say 2 million.
2
All
million.
right. All right. That's right, 2 million. So in 2012, now mind you, 8 years later, 2012, there were 600,000 hysterectomies performed in the United States alone. That's total hysterectomies, women who will never ever have an opportunity to give birth. Okay, and of that 600,000, what percentage do you think were from the African Americans?
599.
Close to 70%. 70% of those 600,000 hysterectomies were in the African American community. It's an issue. It's a major issue, and we can hypothesize about many things. We don't have anything that's solid that will stand up in court. So for the protection of our company, we can't really answer that question. I can hypothesize and say, well, the dioxins and the furans, those chemicals that Lady Mac was talking about, they attack the body, and see, chemical warfare is real. So some of the chemicals that are in tampons have zero use for the body except to inhibit blood flow, to make blood flow. And this is allowed in the tampon by the FDA. This is allowed. So when we look at what dioxins will attack your body wherever they choose to attack your body. And they're cancer creating, like Lady Mac said. So you can have, now when we're talking about the receptor, the largest receptor in a woman's body, in anybody's body. When that dioxin gets in there, it can attack any part of a woman's body that it chooses. So, the heavy bleeding, the fibroids and things that begin to happen, a lot of that can really go back to your diet, okay? But so does everything else that's in our community. Goes back to the diet. And when we have over years and years, still eating chicken, I love them. They don't love me anymore. But I'm just saying that saying that the things that we grew up on, the tradition when scientists know what the tradition is, they can create whatever they choose to create to affect that specific thing in the body. So that's my hypothesis. That's Quintus McDonald 101 saying they're doing it on purpose because they want to stop us from creating life. Period. So that's Quintus McDonald 101. That's not my company, y'all. That's me. What? I mean, that's the reality of it. We want to show demonstration of what we have. What it's going to take.
Yes, demonstration. Pass it on. While you're doing the demonstration, I just want to say thank you. I was doing more than hear this, especially those that are getting into the road, the area. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they need to be made aware. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you for, providing this information to us, but it needs to be funneled through our schools.
That's where social responsibility comes in. That's where the opportunity is for you to buy a pack or, something for your whoever it is that needs to hear this. Listen, and my wife's looking at it like, don't start selling stuff.
That's the thing. I'm just looking.
Hey, selling is good. I mean, especially when it's a product that's beneficial. And well, one of the things about what we do, we made our product cost effective and very competitive with what's on the shelf. And it's at a better price point because you don't use 15 of ours a day. Mm-hmm. And folks say, well, I get a bag of 50 for $7. Yeah, because you use 10 of them a day. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's putting poison in your body. But they're happy to sell you 50 of them for $5. I'm done with that.
No, I know that's okay. All right, so real quick, this is our moderate flow pad, and people look at it and they say, "Oh my goodness, that's so small. What am I supposed to do with that?" Because you're thinking that, right? I'm thinking that. I can read your mind right now. I'm thinking that. You're thinking that. This whole pass around. And I love when people, okay. So I'm gonna do the demonstration. If you first look at it though, you see that it's completely sealed. Completely sealed. We use one from the store. I'm not gonna say any names, right? You're not gonna make any medical claims or anything, but most of the time, like always, I ain't saying anything. That's good, man. You go to the store for your wife. I know. But normally, when it's in the purse, right? What happens when it's in your purse? Like dirty, your bust open, germs, coins, germs, all kinds of stuff gets down in there. Does it not? Yes. But our pad is completely sealed, so you don't have that problem. And it's soft. It's soft, right? Yeah. Soft like cotton. So I'm gonna go ahead and open ours up. They're passing it around so you can feel just how soft it is. Pass off a little bit how soft it is.
I go to the store too. Let me ask a question. Lady Mac, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So, gentlemen, when we go to the store, what's the first thing that you recognize on that aisle? You can smell the aisle. Well, I don't ask you a question. What's the first thing you recognize about that aisle?
What you know?
A lot of different brands.
For me, I can smell all of that perfume stuff.
Oh, okay.
You can smell it when you turn down that aisle. You smell all of that stuff. You notice that ours has absolutely no smell. There's nothing organic or natural about those perfumes, and they're pretty into the pads, into the products, it's going up against our women's body.
Now this is the store brand pad. I just feel that in comparison to the one belt before. The store brand pad. Look how rough that is.
Mm-hmm.
Rough.
Been having these in your closet all this time, never touched them before.
Never touch it, never pay attention, right?
Never smoothed your hand down the middle, did you?
Yeah, I felt soft for you. That's a big difference.
All right.
They didn't have that back in my day.
So we're gonna do a quick demonstration. Oh, the difference is all right. So what we're gonna do is just a demonstration. We're gonna use some water. Honey, what do they say on average? On average, the
90 milliliters per day, the average. I mean, that's, of course, some are very. Oh, Lord.
We're gonna do 50 milliliters. Right, okay.
Oh, that's one of them chicks.
50 milliliters. I don't have my reading glasses, so let's make sure you got 50 milliliters. Is that 50?
Yeah.
Oh, gotta bring it closer.
Yes, it's 50.
50 on the camera. Y'all see that's 50 milliliters. 50 milliliters of liquid because they say on average, women, we lose at least 90 milliliters a day. And I said, I don't know if they average because, yeah. So I'm going to actually,
Wait a minute. That's during it. What?
They say that's the whole thing. That's how much blood y'all lose?
a day.
A day.
So I did
On
50
average.
on average. They said on average. That's what statistics say.
So you think it's more?
Absolutely. You don't know.
I'm asking.
Yeah, no, you don't know.
We know. We know. Think about that trash can. That's for sure.
So I'm gonna actually put this on the store brand pad.
That's why so many.
And the store brand pad, remember it had that little leak guard seal that's supposed to, absorb. Okay, so we're gonna pour it. Pour all 50. And I didn't use the 90, I did 50. All right. All gone. Who should it? Cece, right?
Mhm.
Miss Cece.
Yeah.
Can you assist me?
I'm
Say
up.
it.
I'm on there.
Do them side by side. Okay, so you can come up.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna do the same for our pad. 50. Oops, a little bit more, I believe.
Yes, a little bit more.
A little bit more. Okay. We did 50 on the store brand pad, and I'm gonna do a little bit more on our pad.
And what's your name, Miss Cece? Let me ask a question. What do you notice about this store brand pad?
Just looking at it.
Just looking at it.
Well, it definitely looks like it's more saturated with the water.
What about the color?
This one.
Did it
It's
change?
lighter, yeah.
So what used to be white, now what color? Well, this blue piece was here, but
But I'm saying it's like faded.
faded into it.
Yeah.
So she's saying that the dye, this is room temperature water, y'all. This isn't even body temperature. But the blue has faded into the rest of what's supposed to be. I mean, everybody thought, I thought that pad was made of cotton. But Lady Mac told us that it's recycled material, literally garbage. recycled newspapers, wood chips, and fiber. And they put it through a bleaching process, 8 stages of bleaching to make it appear like cotton. That's why it looked white when you felt it originally. But once it gets wet, it's taking the dye. Everybody knows that blue dye is not a good for you. So what's the purpose of the blue dye? It's supposed to be for absorbency, right? We're gonna see if that. And I'm really talking to give it a chance to. It said 8-hour pad.
The one that you
said 8 hours.
Yeah. 8 hours.
So that said 8 hours. I'm giving it 5 to 7 minutes to absorb, right? So
what I'd like for you to do is, put this red napkin over the store brand pad, and I want you to use pressure and just press down on it. Yeah. Nice and wet. Wet. And again, this is an 8-hour pad, and we're supposed to use it for 8 hours. You can dry your hands. We don't want no extra moisture. No extra moisture when we do the same to our pad. Okay. I see yours a little more fluffy. All right, hands dry? All right, the exact same thing.
Oh, wow. Wow.
What? How much are we
in retail for $10, but because you're here today, we're gonna sell them for $6, which is what you can buy online. You can pay $6 per pack and have them drop shipped to your home. Of course, you'll pay postage handling, but $6 per pack. And that's what we're going to do because you all came out and you stayed and had a wonderful day with us today. Look, she's going to. Yes.
Just the promotional price.
No.
If you go online, they're $6. Normally, when we retail them for $10 a pack. But if you go online and get them for $6, we're selling them today for the price you would pay online.
Without shipping.
Without shipping. And so I know we have other people. The other thing that I will say about the pads real quick, it's seven layers. It's natural. One of the layers is a strip that is called graphene. And you can Google it. Graphene is a Nobel Prize winning technology that it helps with a variety of things from energy. It actually helps raise your energy. So I'm almost beyond needing pads, but I will wear the liners. And that energy strip helps me. It helps mood. It helps with it helps with a variety of things. So I'm gonna be quiet now. And yes, I have
So what's the shelf life? Like, if you get bored of one, like how long?
will it expire in the
Yeah.
draft?
Not before it's due. I mean, what we found, we launched this company June 1st of last year. And what we found, our goal is to have as many customers as we can. It's all about the customer. And what we found is many of our customers order every other month because our product is so good and so absorbent. And what they're finding is because there's no furans and no dioxins, the heaviness of the flow has lessened and the amount of days has shortened. So we're not using as many products as they once were. Certainly of the traditional brands, they don't use as many. So they don't stay around long enough to expire.
Wow.
Yeah. There is an expiration date on the pack, but it's like a year or two out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then the other thing, so like the moderate flow, that's the one I demonstrated today. It's 8 in the pack for moderate, or is it 10? 10 in the pack for moderate. And people say 10, that's not enough. When you're not using as many, it may be enough.
Gotcha.
The liners, without wings, there's 30 in that pack. The overnight, so there's different sizes depending on your flow, also depending on your body type, right? Some may need a longer, wider pad based on their body type. But again, it's just we've had so many phenomenal testimonies. And the company, the headquarters is in Atlanta. It's 100% Black owned. The CEO and the COO are a husband and wife team, and they're just phenomenal. And actually, we were with another company before. We were distributors with another company before that had a similar product. And that company kind of sold off to another company. And this company was started because, one, so many people that had the passion of, we got to educate women about the natural patterns. We have to help people. Even if they don't use our product, they need to know.
Right.
They need to know the truth about the toxins in what they've been using. And then Kiana, who is the COO of the company, Kiana Cross, she helped design the pads. She designed it based on the pads that we were using with the other company, and then just knowing from her and her daughters
And feedback.
and feedback.
Yeah, the leading up to the opening of Jewel, there were close to 75 women that Kiana, that we had a study group that was giving feedback in order for us to improve that product. And just to let you know, that former company was bought by another company, so that product is still on the market, being sold over the internet, and that product sells now for upwards of $15 per pack. And people buy it because it's a good product as well. It doesn't have what ours had. It doesn't have the graphene. We had the patent pending status for that all of last year, and we'll have a professional patent claiming that soon for the United Bowl for North America. So we are determined to serve the people. That's the mindset of the CEO and the COO, serving the people. So, young lady, when you say, is that basically to perpetuity, that's $6? Yes, we're not looking to raise the price at all. Because we want our product in. I mean, you can say 10% of the household just to sound good and not really look like, but we want our product in every Black household in this country. And we're going for working on some things in the Caribbean currently. We're working on some things in one of the African countries. So it's a lot going on.
So on that note, in terms of talking about finances, we are going to turn it over to the phenomenal Dr. Kamau Dickerson.
The pads, baby.
I know pads. I'm sorry, pads. All right. But I really enjoyed it. Thank you. I'm always considering our health, especially now in my life. So to know this, I wish I would have known this spot sooner.
Yes.
Because I definitely would have made sure my wife had this spot a lot sooner. But we're glad to be here now. Well, to tie it in to our health, well, if you look at our communities and you ride, let's just say right here, if you ride through our community, and let's say you ride down Wolf Street, what appearance does that give? Or poverty, impoverished, not really caring about where you live at. And what I found is that we don't mentally think about our finances. We work from check to check. We're working for someone else. And we don't realize the importance of even the fact of having a retirement portfolio. Do y'all know that 78% of Americans, not just blacks now, but 78% of Americans retire and don't even have $1,000 saved?
At retirement.
70 at retirement, 65 retirement age, don't even $1,000 saved. So when we look at the picture, the full picture of what's happening is we work all our lives, work from paycheck to paycheck without a plan. Don't have a plan in place, don't have a coach, don't have an advisor. In fact, we don't even want to sit down with an advisor. Oh, and by the way, some advisors won't sit down with you if you don't have a certain amount of money. That's right. But the point I want you to really get tonight and really hear, because there's so many things I could talk about concerning finances that I've learned from my own personal experience. And I like to want to go backwards a little bit in my age to what I have now, the knowledge I have, because I was just kicking myself with all the money that went through my hands. And the reason why we don't assign our money, we don't have a budget. From the beginning of the month, you need to have a budget in place, assigning your money.
Yeah, so true.
You got to tell your money where it's going to go. Because if not, you're going to wake up one day and you'll be like,
Where did it go?
No. What happened to my money? I made X amount of dollars, but now I don't have this money. So as I was talking to the teens that I was sharing with them budgeting, just having a budget, budgeting your allowance, budgeting the money you make, all those different things. If you got a job, budgeting that money. Doing the first principle is clear. This is a universal principle. Even if people, do y'all know people that don't believe in God do this? Yes. They give 10%, especially if they're wealthy. They give 10% of their income to even churches, and they don't believe in God. Did y'all know that? They give it, and they don't even believe in God, but they understand the principles. So that 10%, then the next 10% should go to you. Before anybody else get paid, it should go to yourself. I'm giving you some principles now that can change your life. Give it to yourself, then pay your bills one time. All of your necessary bills. Don't look at the light bill and say, oh, I'll pay that later. Those shoes look better. Yeah. No, because what you don't realize is that when you don't pay your bills on time, what are you getting? Late charges. And even behind. Do you understand that Georgia Power building is bigger than your house? There's a reason why. Because of those late charges. And of course, they're in business, right? But the key thing I want you to get is that you gotta do things in order, principles, when you're dealing with your finances. And many of us are hurting and still hurting because we won't just sit down at the beginning or the end of the month and do a budget. That's it. It's real simple. Do a budget, assign where your money gonna go, and don't break. I don't care how good that pocketbook looks. I don't care how good them shoes look, man. I don't care if you go in the store and the salesman is so good that he said, look, this ain't going nowhere. I mean, this ain't gonna be here next week. Guess what? It's gonna be there next week and a week after and a week after. And you might be able to go in there and get it cheaper. So I teach you principles as a financial coach. I sit down with you and I educate you, period, on what you must do. I give you a snapshot of where you are and what needs to happen for the future. How are we going to get there? How are you going to attain this goal? And we talk about goals. We talk about making more money. All of that is involved in my program, and I really believe this, and I'm really passionate about our communities learning about finances. Because I don't know what school you come from, but I came from the school. Anybody remember this? Ring, 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 ring. Tell them I'm not here. That's the kind of school I come from. So that's how I learned how to budget. Mama telling the bill collector I'm not poor. So I learned ways that I just didn't know anything about money. But when I started learning about money and how when you really find out that, like Solomon says, money is the answer to all things. See, in the church though, we get caught up in the love of it. The love of money is the root of all evil. That's clear. If you fall in love with money, that means you would do any and everything. You would hurt somebody for it. You would do different things that is wrong to get it if you're that in love with it. But if you understand the principle, and Deuteronomy 8:18 teaches, it is I, God, that gives you the power to get wealth, and you understand that your heavenly Father don't mind you being wealthy. And you start understanding finances, you start investing right, you start making sure you have a life insurance policy, because it's not guaranteed you're going to be here. We learned that this year, right? I was in the hospital 2 times. And when the second time, the doctor asked me a question that hit home. He said, Mr. Dickerson, do you have a will and trust? That hit me like a brick wall. Why did he ask me that question? Because he said there's a possibility you won't make it out. That woke me up for my health. And then also I said, listen, now I have some things in order. If I would have left here, although it would have hurt my baby, she would not have to leave. She would have had a nice policy. Because I have life insurance policy. So she would have been able to not only, here's a principle now, and this is for churches. Pastor, listen to me. Teach your members this principle. Watch this now. Mine is set up in my will and trust that if something happens to me, my wife gets a policy, she takes care of my funeral, but now I'm no longer here. So let's say my income is $3,000 a month. Let's just say we just throw that out there. She can replace my income now that I am gone. Now, so now what that means, she don't have to be married. She all right. She all right. She don't have to go. So, but that principle is not being taught. My income now is in place, and I am the funeral taken care of. She don't have to put a GoFundMe out there. Don't have to put jars up in our convenience stores. Please help me pay for my husband's funeral. It's taken care of. Plus, she has income left behind. Now I'm doing what Proverbs teaches us. Come on, leave by a good man. Leaves behind an inheritance for what? Children. But how many of us in our community is teaching these principles? Right. In fact, have you ever heard? I ain't leaving them nothing back. Y'all know what they think. Y'all know what they I be on TV, so I won't be nice. That's what I normally say, right? I ain't leaving nothing.
You're so bad.
But that's not a what? A good man would leave behind an inheritance for children. Not a principle. It's terrible. That means you don't love your family. That's what it means. So we got a lot of breakdown. That's why I love telling you all. And I don't mean to divert, but I love what Dr. Campbell teaches. See, y'all got to get this now. I'm serious. This is a jewel that's in the midst of us that's teaching us to deal with our mental, our emotions, our spiritual, and our physical. Who teaches that? And then you connect all that together, then your finances going to wind up because you're going to have clarity. So when you have these type of teachers, it's imperative to really take notes. Yeah. And don't just leave and say, oh, that was another conference, another meeting. But what we have learned today, as my coach has taught us, it can change the season in your life. Yes. So I hope I said something that helped with my
Yeah, and what your coach was saying in terms of the seasons of life is what I would like to speak into and pull all of this together, which is that what many people don't want to hear is that there are always seasons. There are always seasons of prosperity and then famine. There are seasons of life and death. And we are going through various different seasons and various different cycles. So the challenge is to be prepared and to protect who and what you love. That is what all of our speakers here are talking about. How do we prepare ourselves for the famine that is inevitable, for the storms that are inevitable? See, what I keep sharing with people is that COVID is not the problem. And I'm going to repeat this. A lot of people don't want to hear this. COVID is not the problem. COVID is the revealer of problems. If you have financial issues as you go through COVID, COVID did not create those issues. As Pastor Dickerson said, most people are going paycheck to paycheck. Most people will get to the point in their lives where they're quote unquote retiring and have to go work at Walmart saying, welcome to Walmart. Because they don't have $1,000 in the bank. The businesses that have folded are businesses that didn't have $1,000 in the bank. And financial advisors will always tell you, you need to have at least 6 to 12 months of reserve.
Exactly. That's clear.
For your family, for your businesses, whatever. Now, where I'm going to step into right now is your health. Because viruses have been here since the beginning of time. And I know that people don't want to hear this. The coronavirus is not going anywhere. Okay? If anything, over time, bigger and badder viruses are going to be coming. So now if you think that slathering yourself with hand sanitizer and masking yourself is going to protect you, you're in for a sorry awakening. That is why what they are saying to us is so critical. And I'm going to connect the dots for all of us. Okay? Because you say, Michelle, who the heck cares about the toxins? So what? It's just those crazy white folks that want to be the tree huggers talking about the toxins. This is the connection, ladies and gents. And they alluded to it. When you start to have cleaner products in your life, when you start to lessen the toxicity in your life, your body comes back into balance. So a lot of the women that I deal with have issues, hormonal issues, that they don't even recognize are hormonal issues. A lot of times we have women who have issues with weight. Did you realize that obesity is one of the main risk factors for the coronavirus? It's not about whether or not you get the virus. It's about how you respond to getting the virus. The next correlative is diabetes. If you are diabetic, that makes you more susceptible to having complications with the coronavirus. Because what many people don't realize is, number one, 99.5% of people will not have an issue with the coronavirus. So everybody run around crazy for 0.5% of the population. You have a more likelihood of dying of a heart attack. Let's just put it out there. So now that 0.5%, the question is, are you in that 0.5%? Do you have those risk factors? And how do you prepare yourself
so that you move out of that category. What these health officials are not telling you is that you need to prepare and protect for the next wave. I'm going to repeat this. You need to prepare and protect for the next wave that is coming. I don't care how many masks you wear. I don't care how much hand sanitizer you bathe yourself with. It is coming. And this is I can't tell you how much this means to me, that you get this. The way you prepare yourself is by strengthening the temple that God has given you. The wages of sins, simply ignoring nature's supremacy, are disease and death. Now you can play this game of pretend, like, ooh, peekaboo with the hand sanitizer, peekaboo with the mask. It's gonna get you, okay? If you don't get your blood glucose in order. So I have on the table back there, I have a blood glucose meter. And if you need one, I have extra ones. I've got strips. If you tell me, Michelle, I need to be checking my blood glucose, I will give you the strips, I will give you the meter. That's how much this means to me. So when we talk about hormones, what a lot of people aren't telling you is that the major risk factor is your blood glucose levels. That is what throws your hormones off. All of your hormones, whether it be your stress hormones or your sex hormones. That is what leads a lot of people into the obesity trap. So you can have a husband and wife going to the gym together, eating salad together, right? And the husband goes, starts to slim down, loses the weight, like, yeah, baby, yeah, baby. And the woman is struggling. She could be eating carrot and celery every day. And can't lose the weight. She could be going to the gym every day. And she's looking at her husband like, man, what's up with that? And you know, he even sneaking some ding dongs and ho-hos on the side. He ain't telling nobody. And still losing the weight. Still losing the weight. What's the difference? Those chemicals. He's not shoving a tampon up inside of him every month. And I'm gonna be raw with y'all. I ain't got time for all the fuzzy wuzzy nice talk. Okay, there are too many people dying. He's not wearing a pad 8 hours where those toxins are being absorbed into one of the most precious areas of your body, ladies. And those hormones are going directly into your bloodstream. And they are stressing out your liver, stressing out your kidneys. And then they're going to the cells in your body, creating what we call insulin resistance. So even though you may sit there eating carrot sticks and celery, and you're like, well, why isn't my blood glucose going down? Because you've developed insulin resistance. So a lot of people come to me and they say, oh, but Michelle, I went to the doctor. The doctor said my blood work was fine. My blood glucose was fine. But you know what's happening? You are eating in all those interesting things. Okay? Your blood glucose shoots up like a rocket. Then your poor pancreas has to work overtime, producing all of this insulin to gobble up the blood glucose, right? And then your blood glucose comes down. So when you get your lab work looks like, okay, I'm cool. My fasted blood glucose is 90 something, let's say. But you don't realize that after you ate that meal, your blood glucose shot up
Your pancreas went skirt, skirt, sending out all that insulin to make it come down. And over time, that roller coaster creates what's called insulin resistance, where your cells stop recognizing the insulin. It's like, what? I don't know you, bro. You ain't coming up in here. And if you don't have that receptivity for insulin, insulin is what takes the sugar out of your blood and takes it into the cells. So interestingly enough, people who have insulin resistance, they can have a large amount of blood glucose and yet still feel tired. Why? Because the sugar is not going into the cells to create the fuel. And over time, this keeps happening over and over again. So you have that elevated blood glucose, all of that sugar starts to go to the liver, starts to build fatty tissue around your liver. So now in this country, we have a supreme amount of people who have fatty liver. It used to be when you saw fatty liver, you're like, oh, that's an alcohol. Nah, buddy, not anymore. So what I'm sharing with you is we need to prepare and protect. We need to do three things. I call it ABC. We need to assess, okay? And what are the things that you need to assess, you may be asking me? Go and get your blood work done. And if you don't have a doctor, and if you need to learn how to do it yourself, you can order the labs yourself, okay? Sometimes it's even cheaper to order the labs yourself than to go through your insurance company. Ironically, I know, crazy, right? Now, when you go and get your lab work done, you're going to look for a couple key factors. In addition to getting the A1C, a lot of you know about A1C, you also want to get your fasting glucose. Most of you know that one. But the key here is get your fasting insulin. You want to know whether or not you're developing insulin resistance. Okay? In addition to that, check your vitamin D levels. Now, your doctor may say, oh, your vitamin D was 30, you're good. No. Your vitamin D levels, and this is D3, your vitamin D levels need to be at least 75 to 100. And African Americans, practically every single, everybody that I test is vitamin D deficient, unless they're already taking vitamin D. Because our melanin requires for us to have more vitamin D. Why is vitamin D important? Because it is key in terms of your immune system. It is key in terms of all of your hormonal system. It is key in terms of making sure that you're able to properly regulate your blood glucose. Now they're even talking about, even with COVID-19, vitamin D, gotta get that vitamin D. Even Fauci, they're talking about, oh, you gotta take the vitamin D. Okay? So these are some of the key ones, and there are many more. You can learn more about it in my book, Feeding a Happier, Healthier You, where I give you all of the different labs that you should ask your doctor for. No, that's not that. Tell your doctor. That's right. Okay? That's right. Because what I teach the people that I work with, you have to be your own advocate. So when I work with folks, they go into their doctors and like, look, I need this, 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 and this. And this is why. I tell them exactly what you need to tell your doctor so that it would be medical malpractice if he or she did not order those labs for you. So we need to look at all aspects of our lives. We need to look at our finances and say, let's do an assessment. Isn't that the first thing you do with people who come to you? Do an assessment, right? And let's see what we need to work on. And then B, how do we build? Because after that, it's like, okay, how are we going to build that money, right? And I'm here, how do I help you to build your health? Mickey D's is not going to build your health. We all know that, okay? I don't even have to sit here and tell you that. I'm not going to waste your time. If I ask you what builds your health, what will you tell me? What builds your health? Say it again. Fruits and vegetables. What else? Exercise. What else? Sleep. Sleep. Oh, yes. Sleep. Yes. What else? Sunlight. Okay. Water. And what is it that we have stopped doing in all of these lockdowns? We stopped going outside. We stopped going to the gym and exercising. We stopped breathing in fresh air. Okay. Exactly. We start stressing ourselves out. Stress increases your likelihood of succumbing to any kind of virus or bacteria. I don't have to tell you that. You know this. Sometimes you have a stressful week and all of a sudden you go, start having a sniffle, you go, oh God, I'm tired, I'm catching something. Well, guess what? The something was out there all the time. Now the difference is you're in a weakened state, and so you succumb to that something that was out there. And my students will tell you, every cold and flu season, because I've taught in the school system, every cold and flu season, I'm like, okay, time to buckle down on my vitamin D, my zinc, my vitamin C, make sure I'm doing my meditation and prayers, make sure I'm doing my exercise, because we have to fortify and get ready for the next wave. You've got to build. You've got to build with your sleep. Nothing replaces sleep. Stop drinking them daggone bullet drinks or whatever the heck it is, the fuzzy nonsense, and the 50 cups of coffee. It's giving you the illusion that you have energy that you don't have.
Wow.
Just like all the stuff that people are doing gives you the illusion of safety.
Yes.
And that is why I'm against things like masks. Because it's giving people the illusion that they are safe. You are not safe if you're running around eating ding-dongs and ho-hos and Mickey D's. You're not safe. If your vitamin D level is 25, you're not safe. If your blood glucose is shooting up through the roof, you're not safe. If your blood pressure is high, you're not safe. That's why I'm against the narrow thinking about medication. Because you think, oh, I'm taking the medication, I'm good. No. That doesn't give you license to sin. To simply ignore nature's supremacy. So you think just because somebody's going to be there to patch up your legs later on, that you should jump out a 5-story building. Like, okay, the ambulance is right there waiting for me. We did. We got the top surgeons up in the hospital. We did. All right, go ahead. Take chances. Go ahead. But I want you to assess and build so you can prepare and protect. And the last thing is cleanse. And one of the ways to cleanse is by not putting the crap in us in the first place. So throw away. I'm gonna say it. Go ahead. Throw away that Tampax. Throw away that always. Now see, I'm gonna have to say that. Now see, now I'm gonna make me have to go buy some Tampax. But I'm serious about it. I want you to be able to say hi to me a year from now. I want you to be prepared. And if you want to wear your mask, keep wearing your mask and do what I'm telling you to do. I don't have any problems if you do both things. Please, 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 please think about the different areas where you are inviting toxicity into your life. Mental toxicity, thoughts, negative thoughts that you allow to come into your life. I don't even watch the news anymore. I'm like, look, if a hurricane comes, I'm gonna figure it out when I go to the store and I see everybody going for the water bottle. Or my hubby buddy, he'll tell me, he still watches the news. But me, I can't watch the news, okay? When we think about the emotions that we hold on to, God tells us that we're supposed to hold on to the fruit of the Spirit. Everything else is not of God. This fear that is being pervasive through our world at this point in time is not of God. It is false evidence appearing real. It is not true. This is not of God. God wants you to be calm, at peace, in the midst of any storm. But the only way you can do that is by being in alignment with what is being said in the holy book. Everything else is dead. And I want you to be prepared, ladies and gents, because this is just the beginning. I know you don't want to hear this. This is just the beginning. Get your financial books in order. Get rid of all of that toxicity and build. Build upon what God has given you. Build the fruit of the Spirit, the love, the peace, the joy. Build your physical body with fruits and vegetables and whole grains. So I thank you for joining us here, because as some of us have said, this generation is different. See, back in our day, Mama could have said, because I said so. You know, as we say in the West Indies, let me give you a back slap. Okay? Oh yeah, man. Or here in the States, I'm gonna knock the black off of you. Okay? But this generation is different. They don't listen to what we say. They look at what we do. They look at the lives that we lead. And that is why it's important to me to have these times with you, because I can talk to our children for 8 hours a day in a classroom, and anybody who's a teacher will know this. And then the fear that you have is, but they go home. And what is being done at home? So I personally don't work with any children anymore. I work with parents, because when I deal with any child, it's about the parent. If a child is ADD, depressed, anxious, have weight issues, whatever it is, it's not about the child. It's about mom and dad have got to change what they're doing. The child is just a product. So all of you, whether you are teachers, mom and dad, auntie, uncle, grandma, grandpa, sister, brother, whomever you are, prepare and protect in your own life, and that will translate to the lives of your children. We are here for the International Teen Leadership Summit. And it is unfair for us to ask our children to be leaders if we ourselves are not dedicated to being leaders. Question?
Yes. I have a lot of questions. I'll start with one first. So, like, we talk about like flu season. Like, what is flu season? Like, what is it that there's certain conditions that make us more susceptible to the flu?
Yeah.
And what is that?
Well, when we talk about flu seasons, first of all, we talk about changing of the different seasons. And what you will notice is that a lot of times, more people get sick as you're changing from one season to the next, because your body has to acclimate or go with the change. Mm-hmm. So what I teach people to do is to cleanse as you're going through a change.
Okay.
If you cleanse as you're going through a change, and the way we teach it is that we build as we cleanse, so that you can make that change with nature. So there's that one reality. And then the other thing is, as we go into quote unquote cold and flu season here in the northern hemisphere, in the West, we have the changing of the sun. So there's less sunlight, which lowers our vitamin D levels.
Right.
And you more than likely have heard of what we call seasonal affect disorder, where people get kind of slumpy and depressed and moody and things of that nature because they're not getting the same kind of activity that they used to get. And they tend to be more, quote unquote, anxious and depressed, which that starts to drain different minerals and vitamins from your system. And that makes you more susceptible. When your mood goes down and you're eating all kinds of ding dongs and ho-hos, and then we know we're going into the quote unquote holiday season, and what do we eat? Sugar, 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 sugar. All bad, rancid fat. All of these things make our immune systems go down lower. And then to compound that, nature goes into quote unquote hibernation, where the system starts to go down. You notice that we have the longest night of the year on December 21st. And you notice the bears will go into hibernation. And so for all of us, our systems start to go down. It slows down. You literally, so you literally start to slow down all of your systems. And as your systems slow down, it makes you more susceptible to viruses and bacteria. So even when we talk about things like sugar, sugar is the biggest drug on our planet. Anything white is a drug.
Right.
White sugar, white flour, white rice, white milk, they're all drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this literally.
Yeah.
They act in a drug-like fashion in your body. The same kind of effect that drugs, illicit drugs, marijuana, cocaine, all of them have on your brain neurotransmitters, they have the same kind of similar transmitters, an opiate kind of effect.
Yes.
And then they start to wreak havoc on what we call the microbiome, the healthy little critters in your gut. And that brings down the strength of your immune system and makes you more susceptible to viral and bacterial influences.
So like when you're going, thank you for that. When you're going into, we're going to seasons where we're naturally getting less vitamin D. What do you recommend that we take supplements for that? I've read articles where taking, like a vitamin D supplement sometimes the body doesn't absorb all of it, or the supplement itself really doesn't have a sufficient amount of vitamin D that you're going to need for your body to function. What foods would you recommend that we eat, or do you recommend another way to get the vitamin D into your body?
You can use different foods like cold water fish and things of that nature. However, the reality is that most people are so low in vitamin D, they're going to have to take some kind of supplementation. So it's about the quality of the vitamin D, and then there's also the cofactors that need to be taken with the vitamin D. A lot of people have issues with breaking down fats. So if you have issues with breaking down fats, so let's say you notice that if you eat fatty foods or things of that nature, you get like that burpy kind of, you burp up and you're like, that kind of gross, So if you have a certain kind of symptomology, that gives you an idea that your body has difficulty breaking down fat. Also, a lot of people who are insulin resistant tend to have difficulty breaking down fats because that's why their body keeps on going into the pathway of using sugar or carbohydrates to give them energy because they can't convert their fats into energy. So if that's the case, then that means that you're going to need supplementation to be able to break down your fats effectively when you take those fat-soluble vitamins such as vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin E. So A, D, E are your fat-soluble vitamins that all of them help with your immune system, right? But if you don't have the ability to break those down efficiently, you may be taking a lot of vitamin D and not having the effect you need in terms of increasing your levels. So then you need to have the proper cofactors.
Gotcha.
and to do it in a soluble manner and to do it with food so that it'll be more easily absorbed into your body.
One more question. I don't want to take a lot of questions.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So last November, I had hypertensive crisis. I didn't even know I had high blood pressure actually until I was about out of here, literally. So, and my wife said go to the hospital because I'm a super naturopath, right? So, but I needed more education in the area. I thought I was doing good, but I'm overdoing it out. So anyway, so the doctor had me on like 4 different medications. So now I'm down to 1. Yeah, and I'm really not like kick it off completely. Intermittent fasting is helping a lot. But like you said, like with the insulin and stuff like that. So they help a lot. So I'm taking carvedilol now, but the carvedilol, it robs your body of potassium and magnesium. And so I noticed recently, I stopped drinking my coconut water like I normally would do. I stopped doing my spirit salads to get potassium, which, just traveling and doing all kind of stuff, just getting distracted from those things. But I kind of know, the foods that have the potassium in it. But what has magnesium?
Well, I love that you're asking that question. So all of these different minerals, if you go over to our table over there and go through the little flip chart, you see the different minerals and different sources for those minerals. And we also have like little mineral testing so that you can have an idea of whether or not you may be more susceptible to certain mineral deficiencies. And again, like I said, insist that your doctor does a comprehensive lab panel, okay? Which includes things like magnesium and potassium and chloride and things of that nature. With the understanding that sometimes things look good in your blood because the body robs from Peter to pay Paul. The blood is premium real estate. The body will do anything and everything to make sure your blood is stabilized. So that's why it's important to always look at your symptomology also to see if there may be that possibility. So a lot of times, even when we talk about mental health illnesses, okay, a lot of that is because people have imbalances in various vitamins and minerals and neurotransmitters and all that kind of good stuff.
Because I noticed recently, this week where I've been off like my potassium and magnesium, I noticed that my sympathetic nervous system was just like overactive.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like sitting on edge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I wish like so and I already got some of that in the actual. I was curious, about that because one day I was sitting and I was crying and my wife was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Maybe it's something I said, "I ain't sad about it.
It'll mess you up."
Yeah. I'm not going to cry by now.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we talk about mental health, we talk about emotional health, and we don't make that connection.
Yeah.
You've got to look at everything together. You have to acknowledge, so like I said, when I deal with clients who have different issues, I say you have to deal with the physical component and the mental and the emotional and the spiritual all together. You don't look at one of those things and you're just slapping a Band-Aid. And it's just going to be a matter of time and the whole deck of cards will come falling down.
This is my last one, I promise you. So I want to get off, the conversation on like side effects. So what I've had a lot of success with is beet juice. I love beet juice, apple cider vinegar, and lemon. So I was gonna just like make it into a concoction and just take it like twice a day and just roll it like that. Because I've had success with it, and I don't personally I don't trust my doctor, So I've always been like a naturopath person, and the things that they even told me to do when I had hypertensive crisis, I'm like, if I do that, I will die. I'm like, this is horrible advice. and I just think that they're just not educated on
They are.
a naturopath, so
They don't get it in medical school. So, you know,
maybe worse.
as Christ said on the cross, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. You know, and I would like to believe that most of our medical professionals are genuine in the fact that they care about their patients, but they just haven't been trained. So even going back to what our sister here, Karen, has shared with us, simple things are all connected. They're all connected. So in your session, in your case, and in everyone's case, I encourage you to do assessments, because even something as simple as sleep can raise your blood glucose levels, can raise your blood sugars, your blood pressure. Something as simple as not getting enough sleep. Something as simple as not drinking water. So, you know, we're looking on Mount Himalaya for the magic herb to do whatever it's called. Turn off the TV and go to sleep. And people freak out with me like, that's what I paid you for? Yeah. Do the water, get some sleep. Bye. Invoices in the mail.
Speaking of water, there's just something comment. Is it best to drink the spring water or the mineral water? Because I've had I've drunk both, but is it best to drink the spring water or the mineral water?
Well,
Or does it really matter?
one of the biggest things that I share with people is making sure that your water is filtered.
Yes.
Okay. And so the reality is a lot of these bottled waters, they're not making a difference. Really and truly, somebody turn on the faucet somewhere, slap away water. Okay. And then the other thing is, as you were sharing with us, toxicity of what's being leached into that water from the bottles. So if I'm in a hard luck place, you know, like today, I didn't bring my water with me, so, and, you know, I just have to drink the bottled water and call it a day, and like, okay, it's not gonna kill me because I don't do this often.
Right.
So if you're gonna invest in anything, invest in a good water filter system. So you don't have to worry about that today. Because everything else is just a sales gimmick, really and truly. And I don't do with mineral waters, because again, you don't know what your mineral levels are. So you could be making things worse and don't even realize it.
Explain
And then
that.
you also mentioned about the A1C. What would you say a safe A1C would be?
4.5 to 5.5. Oh. Really, you want it to be closer to 5, between 4.5 and 5. But you know, when I'm initially working with people, if we get it down to 5.5, I'm doing a happy dance. And that's without medication. If you're on medication, then everything goes out the window, because that's a fake number anyway.
Could you explain that about the mineral water? You say you don't know what your mineral levels are, so the mineral water that you take to throw it out the same.
Yeah, so let's say whatever they have in the mineral water, you know, different ones have different things. And let's say it has more potassium, right? If your potassium levels are already high, you're going to create further imbalances by drinking that mineral water. And a lot of it, again, is all hype. So, you know, people also talk about alkaline water.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, I've got to make my body alkaline. You know what's going to make your body alkaline? I'm going to give you a free one. Guess what helps make your body more alkaline than anything else?
Sleep.
I'm going to give you a clue. Math. Breathing.
Oh, breathing.
Respiration accounts for 90% of your body's alkalinity. Breathing. Breathing in deeply, breathing out completely. In deeply, out completely. The in breath gives you that oxygen. The out breath releases the carbon dioxide. When you are not getting enough oxygen and you're getting too much carbon dioxide, it creates what we call acidosis. It creates also stress to your kidneys because now your kidneys have to try and buffer the acidity in your body. And then in addition to that, it overstimulates your sympathetic nervous system. So you notice when people are anxious, they have a shallow breath.
Yeah.
So what do they always tell you? Slow down your breath and breathe deeply. Why? Because that helps shift you out of sympathetic nervous system into parasympathetic nervous system.
And there is such thing as being too alkaline.
So that's the other thing, right? Metabolic alkalosis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's good.
I have a question. So we talked earlier about the men and women, the spouses working out, carrots.
Yeah.
We over here. You cannot work out, and then like day two, you just like
I work out.
time to get flattered.
Right? You're working out. You're doing double time. And
Yes.
yeah.
So
And that-
go
and so-
back to that.
Everything boils down to assessment. So it's just like if I'm dealing with 5 people who are diabetic, they've got 5 different issues, I guarantee you. 5 people who are hypertensive, 5 different issues. 5 people with weight issues, 5 different issues. So for some people, it is hormonal. In fact, most females.
Yeah.
And so what we look for, and you go with me on this, is what we call the body shape. So if you carry your weight here, hormones, guaranteed. So you can eat carrot sticks from now to doomsday, and you ain't gonna lose weight. I mean, you lose some,
Yeah.
but you're gonna get cranky. You're gonna try to kill him, and he's gonna be like, "Girl, just eat the ding dong, ho ho." No. And again, the toxicity creates hormonal resistance. The insulin resistance that is preventing you from being able to lose the weight most times has to do with toxicity, which is creating the hormonal imbalance. So all of our feminine products, all of our beauty products, we squirt ourselves with all the perfume and blah, blah, yak. That stuff is going directly into your bloodstream and directly to your cells and creating hormonal resistance. So the same way that we have insulin resistance, you can get estrogen resistance, you get progesterone resistance. So one of the things that I share with people is get your assessment done so that you know what's going on and start doing free consultation here, clearing out the toxic products.
Yeah.
Stop drinking from them water bottles. Okay. Start to use some essential oils and create your own beauty products. Okay. I even my girls will tell you, we create our own beauty products. I don't use lotions or any of those things. We create our own beauty products. Hey, good business, right?
Yeah.
And then think about your foods, the meats that most of us eat, full of hormones. If the cow can go from this to this in a week,
Right.
that's the same thing happening in a year.
Yeah.
Sorry to tell you that. If the chicken, back where I grew up in Central America, and chicken took a whole heap of weeks to grow up, right? These chicken grow up in like
2 days.
2 weeks, man.
They can't even walk.
They can't even walk because they're being fed so many hormones. And whatever goes into the chicken go into you. So now you look just like a chicken. I very rarely eat it. I mean, people tell you I don't even have a taste for it anymore. And so he can get away with stuff because men have different hormonal issues, but it catches up with them. So as they get older, we get to what we call aromatizing. So men go through their own little menopause kind of cycle thing, where they start developing, the beer belly. As I told you, ain't no barrel in that belly. It is all fat, right? Okay. Painful, yeah, painful. It's the hormones where they start converting their testosterone into estrogen. So that's the telltale sign right around here.
So, okay, so What do I do?
Why you got to on it? You know how to do it. You just have to be humble to listen to her.
I need to listen to my wife too, because she be telling me the truth. And I still eat it. I just got a revelation.
I recently started taking sea moss. I want to know what are your thoughts on it, and maybe some.
Yeah. But you have to get the organic kind that doesn't have all of, because again, we polluted our world so horrifically, and the sea moss grows at the bottom,
Yeah.
you know, so it collects all of that toxicity. So you have to make sure that it is harvested in a relatively clean water source. And that's hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've
I mean,
noticed-
that's from the Caribbean. You know, my family grew up with Irish moss and all that kind of stuff, but it's getting harder and harder to find good quality Irish moss that hasn't been in toxic water.
so the Irish moss and sea moss is the same thing.
Well, they're from the sea, is what I'm saying. All of
Okay.
these different sea creatures, so all your sea vegetables help you with detoxification.
Gotcha. Yeah, because like, 'cause I know it has to help with like high blood pressure. Because one day, I took a tablespoon of it, and then I did like my whole. So I did a tablespoon of the sea moss.
Yeah.
And then I had my apple cider vinegar with the beet juice and with the lemon. I said, "Babe, I'm about to fade. My blood pressure too low now."
Yeah.
I had to bring it back up. I was like, "It worked too good." I had to learn how to balance it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, but my whole goal is to like just completely done with the medication of it. Even I'm down to one right now. I wanted to do it in 6 months, but like it's probably gonna be 11 months. So I should be happy with
As
it.
long as you are doing it in a step-by-step manner and you're making lifestyle changes, that it's not a fad and you're trying to do everything at one time. So I always share with people, take it one step at a time, because I'm more interested in you making a new life for yourself than trying to do it overnight and then you just revert and go back to even worse.
Yeah.
So as you go slowly and it becomes part of who you are, as opposed to what somebody else told you, then, like I said, you won't even think about going back. Because you will literally be a new you, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually.
And I really do want to look at like, you know, what you're saying, like with the lab work and pay attention to that. Because when I had the hypertensive crisis, they did the what you call it, the catheterization.
Yeah.
They did it through there, and they found they found no blockages, and so I didn't have to have a stent or nothing like that or whatever. So it was like, so I was in the hospital for 4 days. They were like, we got to find out what's causing it to get so
Exactly.
high.
What's causing it to create those blockages? You know, so that's why I'm again stressing to you guys to start looking at the whys. Our medical system looks at diagnosis, and I tell people I'm happy every single day to tell you I do not diagnose. I have no interest in that diagnostician, because my goal is for you to understand why. So if the doctor says, "Oh, I have high blood pressure," and then gives you medication, you never ask why.
Yeah.
They don't go there
Because I left without knowing. That's probably why I gave me 4 medications.
because they don't know.
Yeah, they're
Because
like,
it takes a lot to figure out why. I talk with my people before I give them a health plan. I have at least 4 hours of conversation, in addition to spending more hours looking over labs and symptomology and all that kind of stuff before I can say, okay, this is the direction that we're going in.
Gotcha.
Because for me, it's not about Band-Aids. Yeah, it's not about Band-Aids.
Yes, it is.
So it may be your girlfriend has certain things that she's slathering herself with, and then y'all are just so lovey-dovey, and you're absorbing it, and now you're producing more estrogen. Who knows? I don't know. Or maybe just need some more sleep. So be holistic in how you look at things. Maybe you just need to have more love. See, that's the other thing that Corona has done. We don't even want to love each other anymore. Like, oh, stay away.
What about the hug? They did studies with little babies where they gave the babies, all the nutrients that they needed. And guess what? They died because they didn't get hugs. They died. And that's what we're doing. We're starving people of love, of affection. We're scared of each other. So be holistic and do that ABC. Do your assessments for your financial life, for your physical life, your spiritual life, your emotional life. Do the building, the cleansing. Ask yourself, what do I need to let go of? Do I need to let go of them raggedy tampons? Yeah,
I have one more question. So we thank all of you for tonight. But Dr. Gamble, you mentioned also about mental health and emotional health. And sometimes, especially in our African American community, we have a stigmatism with that, with the emotional side as well as the mental health side. So when you identify a person that may have some emotional concerns, which could very well be to the imbalance of the hormonal process, but they'll tell you there's nothing wrong. How do we help that person who can't see that that's what they need? Maybe need to go and get themselves assessed or checked to see what their hormones are, see what their levels are, whether it's the A1C or the albumin, those different levels to try to.
The first thing, and I'm going to share my personal story with this. In November of last year, my son had a psychotic break and became schizophrenic. As a result of that, was in and out of psychiatric hospitals, and he ended up being in 2 different car accidents. The second car accident broke both of his legs, shattered his teeth, and created brain damage. And like you, I was like, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. And he was wandering the streets homeless. And we were in prayer for him. And the crazy thing is Corona. And everybody had to get off the street and came home. And that is when I was able to get all the assessments done for him. And he got to that point where he said, Mommy, I need your help. Because until that person says, I need your help, it's just like an alcoholic, it's like anything else. Like you said with your wife, until that person gets to the point of saying, I need your help. And for me, I truly believe that what helps people to get to that point is prayer. Mamas pray, grandmamas pray, papas pray, uncles pray, teachers pray. Pray that God will step into their hearts to make them receptive to guidance. Because I'm telling you, man cannot do it. You can't force people to want to heal. You can't legislate it. You can't mandate it. And even if you decide to check your son or your daughter or whomever into a facility, as soon as they get out, they're going to go right back. So that's why I said, you can't take God out of medicine. That's why we're dying right now in this country. Because we decided that, we're going to worship the MD, medical deity, and figure that God ain't got nothing to do with healing. And I'm here to tell you that we heal because of God. There's no doctor that can heal you. None. So prayer.
I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but that's just my
That
experience.
is the answer. And I want that to come out because again, as we see around the world, you know, God had to allow this to happen. Not just here in the United States, but all around the country. And it really boils back down to love and honoring God. Because that's what he said. That's what he placed us on this earth to worship him. And if we can get to that, truly, and like we said, and we all have heard from time to time, is we must have a relationship with God. And not just the man upstairs, because God is God of the universe. He's not a man upstairs. He's God, the creator of the universe. But I just wanted to make sure that came out. And I know we were recording,
but see, that's the whole thing. What I keep sharing with people is Corona is a messenger.
Yes.
The world was heading in a certain direction.
Yes.
And there needed to be a messenger. But see, we do what we always do. We kill the messenger. We vilify the messenger and we forget about the message. So the message, what I keep sharing with people is ask yourself, what is Corona trying to teach you? Maybe it's trying to say, put down the ding dongs and ho-ho. I don't know. Maybe it's trying to say, love your family. Spend more time with your family. Maybe it's trying to say, spend more time in prayer. Maybe it's trying to say, get your finances in order. Maybe it's trying to say, stop using them daggone tampons. I don't know. Everybody has a different message that is being delivered through the vehicle of coronavirus. So now you can get all up in a bunch thinking that coronavirus is the big bad guy and not realize that it's about the message. Wow. What is coronavirus here to teach? And it is going to be different for every single one of us. For me, it was about reestablishing the primacy of my relationship with my children. Because he'll tell you, I kicked them all out. Okay, 18, bye. See ya. And then this happened, and they all came back in one way or the other. So I don't know what the message is for any of you, but you do. And if you don't know, it's prayer time.
Yes, indeed.
That is the way to prepare and protect, to humble ourselves before the Creator and ask, what are you here to teach me? If your blood pressure is high, what is God trying to tell you? If your blood glucose is high, what is God trying to tell you? If you have a temperature, what is God trying to tell you? If you have a headache, what is God trying to tell you? If you have diarrhea, what is God trying to tell you? I encourage you to look for the message and not vilify the messenger. It is only by doing so that you can prepare and protect for what is yet to come. For what is yet to come. And I'm not here to prophesy doomsday. It's just cycle. You know, there are ups and there are downs. Since the beginning of time, we've had ups and downs, famines and prosperity, you know. So we ask God, how do we prepare and protect for what is yet to come?
Oh, Dr. Mike.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here with us.